Hello, M&A scientists. Welcome to the M&A Science Podcast, where we learn from the best in M&A to uncover proven techniques for enterprise value creation. If you're interested in learning more on how to optimize your M&A practice or want to get involved with our community of forward-thinking M&A practitioners, visit mascience.com and subscribe to our free weekly newsletter. If you want to keep up with us on the go, head over to LinkedIn and follow M&A Science. I'm your host and chief M&A scientist, Kison Patel. Today, I'm joined by Wolfgang Schenk, VP of M&A at Belden. Belden is a global company specializing in design, manufacture, and distribution of end-to-end networking, security, and connectivity products and solutions. Traded on NYSE under BDC and also the Frankfurt Exchange under QCTA. Today, we're going to talk about the art of executing programmatic M&A. Wolfgang, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you, Kison. Welcome to Germany, by the way. Here, you're in our headquarters, in our European headquarters in Neckartenzlingen, Germany.
We're here just outside of Stuttgart.
Yeah.
Thank you for hosting. Guten Tag, wie geht's?
Sehr gut, dankeschön.
I appreciate taking the time. We got a nice factory tour, and I'm fired up to have this interview.
It's my pleasure.
Well, can we kick things off a little bit about your background?
My background. So I'm actually a telecommunications engineer. I was growing up in this area where we are today. I call myself a networker for over 40 years. Networker, why? So I pioneered a bit. I was joining this Hirschmann company, today part of Belden, when Ethernet went to fiber optics. When fiber optics, as the first company we developed this for the world, we replaced first coaxial cable parts. I pioneered later in bringing Ethernet into the industrial applications, being today the most important bus system there. We founded an organization, International Industrial Automation Open Networking Alliance, IAONA, in the late 90s. Yeah, and in my roles today, I'm managing director of all Belden facilities in Germany, and operational, you introduced me as a director or the vice president for global M&A activities inside Belden.
Your background is interesting because it's unique. You're not came up through finance or sort of bred for M&A. You actually came up through the industry, and which you clearly demonstrated to me today. You know the industry in and out. And I'm curious about that in terms of your personal experience transitioning from the business management, the sales side, and now into M&A. Obviously, there's some benefits, like you know the business, but what's sort of your view and the strengths that you bring from that, and or maybe some of the learning curves you had to overcome?
Yeah, this is a bit, let's say, the career step which you do when you start with a startup. And actually, when I joined Hirschmann, this was not really a startup, Hirschmann itself, but the business inside Hirschmann was created as the first solutions-oriented fiber optic applications for industrial environments. And there I had a perfect background. In my studies, I was falling in love with fiber optic communication, light, transmission of information by light. And this was the first company bringing this. And then, of course, it's a long path going through different steps in this career, being more and more financial driven and interested in things. Not necessarily planned, but a very good development. And still for me today, to good. And in industrial environment, I think it is okay and fine if you have the complete technical background. And especially now in my new role, I know the companies, I know the market, I know the customers, and this is a perfect background, and I have a very nice and good support for the financial background and the financial simulation and white paper building, and also tools are supporting us in this case. Yeah, so this is a bit how it came.
That's a different way of looking at it, of just progressing within your business career in the business, as opposed to coming up purely from one area of finance.
Yeah. And the customer plays an important role in this whole context. And we are today here in the Customer Innovation Center, Stuttgart. And this one goes also back to big steps in my career, or important steps. Let me say I was the first employee of the Customer Innovation Center almost 40 years back also here. And went from service to marketing and sales responsibilities to purely sales, then general management, operations tactics. I have several masters in lean enterprise, black belts there. So it developed and was never a boring day within the last 40 years.
Let's talk about engineering the M&A process.
Yeah.
We've talked about this term about programmatic M&A, and I want to first understand, what is your definition of programmatic M&A, and how do you see things have evolved from the way you previously did M&A versus to how you, let's call it re-engineered M&A in your company?
Yeah, the question is, what was it usually, or what was it used to be? Traditional M&A approach, it is an opportunistic approach. So companies are coming to the market and you are checking if they are fitting to you. It's opportunity driven, kind of by random access. And of course, they need to fit to your strategic scores and into your programs and to your markets. The programmatic approach is a more systematical one. Yeah? And therefore, let's say the very first important step was that while we were before with 3 platforms or 3 to 5 platforms inside Belden, opportunistic driven, out of these 5 platforms, we merged to one single common reference architecture, our complete data communications, data acquisition and transmission, and data orchestration and management portfolio, described it clearly, and then could identify in this customer or common reference architecture our gaps. And now we are searching exactly along our gaps for full Belden in one search profile, search criteria, and with the same tool set below. This is the important step. Yeah? So gap analysis and strategic positioning. We have exactly defined 13 vertical markets which we are focusing on, and we have use cases within these 13 vertical markets, and there we have a clear search price for exactly this. And this is the one step. And the second one is supported by tools, supported by a very good workflow, documentation, and with that demand driven by our internal customers, the new programmatic approach.
Okay, so just want to make sure I got that. In terms of defining what a programmatic approach is, it sounds like strategy really is a core driver that became much more defined, that allows you to, I guess, have more intention or sort of find opportunities and know exactly where they fit in that strategy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you have the whole workflow itself that sounds like it's become more defined as well. Is that?
Correctly, complete. You got it completely. And let me add one more piece to the strategy, because before you are a components or products oriented company, and you can add to a component or a product portfolio, you can add piece by piece without any critical topic within. The strategy change was going through more solutions oriented business, very clear use solutions in this before mentioned use cases. And with that is also a higher variation of different companies, talents, targets, operation capabilities. Is a broader portfolio than just adding products and grow inorganically. And we have also as a programmatic point that we try to do one acquisition per quarter. Yeah, so a bit in a higher frequency where we had before, let's say, one a year.
But is it because you have these things in place that it allows you to do it, or is it just we have goals to go push more deals?
Let's say driven by goals, driven by strategy, but was very important to set up the tools to be ready to do and to support this, and to have a very good database and an overview, workflows defined. So it's combined, but let's say the first idea was the strategy and a solutions-oriented business. And there is Belden unique to deliver a data communication solutions from A to B without any breaks, from a connector, and we saw it in production today, from a connector, from a cable to a switch to a wireless connectivity to firewalls, the completely safe and high available, reliable data infrastructure.
So that was the vision, and then here you're exercising M&A to fill in any of those gaps so that you can provide all those solutions end to end. Why, like, what was the driver of moving and evolving to be more programmatic in your M&A approach? Was it the goals itself, or what prompted you to make those changes?
The driver was, in fact, the strategy and the reorientation to solutions business. And solutions is also supported by services, by trainings, by people bringing people together, doing proof of concepts, validation tests, bringing organizations together, doing plugfests. So this is the driver, and with that, A, the higher frequency, B, the perfect fit into this solutions portfolio is a bit surrounded by building an eco-partner system in addition. And out of this eco-partnering and joint venturing and working together is maybe also a pool that's leading and that has an inflow into our M&A funnel. Yeah, so this is, but the approach is, to make more money by offering solutions and not just products.
What are the pros and cons of programmatic M&A?
So the pros are, of course, a perfect fit to strategy and closing gaps and having a really solutions part. Your internal customers are motivated, are with you, are following you, and you have a regular inflow, and it needs to be supported by regular discussions with the internal owners of the business, and it is also a holistic approach. I did not talk so far that it's not only find the right company, go into cultivation, go into due diligence, doing this successfully, sign and close. It's also the process that's following after, the integration process, and all over this complete period of time, you need to be perfectly prepared and ready. This is in the programmatic approach right now also our focus to improve integration in addition and to have there successful. You might know that 80% of all acquisitions all over the world are failing due to bad integration topics and have sometimes negative stories. So this is the one thing. There is not really a con. What I see is, of course, it requires you to work very disciplined, to stay on day by day in the business and into the activities. Excuse me. And this is from my point of view the only topic which you could call a con, if there is at all a con.
You can't be lazy. You have to do the work.
You can exactly. Yeah, you need to be awake day and night, and the discipline tracking of systems is a very important part. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to add this like connecting the life cycle, because I feel like we have strategy to the point that it is very clearly defined that helps you fit opportunities in rather quickly. And then there's this workflow and tools that you have your teams aligned on. And then ultimately there's connecting the whole life cycle end to end through integration.
Yeah.
Which comes up in these interviews quite a bit. So, okay. So we got that. What, it comes to strategy. I'm just curious, like if you're to like teach me just how to get my thinking right? Cause I'm pretty early in our business and shifting from working in the business to on the business. So like, what advice would you give to me just to kind of because I feel like everybody has such a different view around thinking about strategy, and obviously it's a very different business to business, but do you have like some philosophy I can grab on just so I can get my head in the right way of thinking about strategy from even my own business?
Yeah. And the very first one is challenge it every day, day by day, but don't change it day by day. This is the second part of the advice. We are working with 3 year strat plan periods, and there are other companies having longer ones, 5 one. I think 3 years is kind of a good one, but also there important that you do not write any year a new strategy, that you really continue and track these 3 year periods. But as I said before, challenging it day by day, and then drive the definition through talking a lot to customers. Voice of customers needs to be the most important inflow into your strategy. The demand, the pain point, the need on the customer side. And this actually really changed in our business, in the automation business, where companies were very successful with individual product solutions, with highly sophisticated developments, but no interoperability, no end-to-end solution, no, if it came into a production and there was a malfunction or a problem, the customer had a problem to get the right responsible person, to find the one who integrates the whole things. And this is a bit the advice to your strategy. Drive it from demand and voice of customer and follow these topics. Make your own position, bring in your ideas. They are waiting and they are expecting from you new ideas and input, but be there in a very close and aligned process with the customers.
I like that, building your strategy around the voice of customer.
Yep.
So everybody does a version of this exercise, and you have a vision of being number one in your market, even a grander vision of connecting the pieces to be number one. How do you go about challenging that daily? Like, what's the mindset or approach to do that?
Yeah, it is indeed also here the customer voice and the feedback there a bit. Yeah, so and this is, let's say, you need to measure this a bit more than just asking. You need to track really loyalty of your customers and this feedback. And there you get also the feedback of where maybe today you have gaps in your portfolio and in your strategy. It has all to do by interaction, bringing people together, talking to each other. And customer end users is the one. You need to rely also on your channel partners, those who are helping you to be overall in an ecosystem, I mentioned this before, being successful.
I feel like a lot of that, I guess you get a blend. You get this information from customers and partners that can help shape your organic development of your business.
Yeah.
And then that probably helps you identify where there's things you could improve in your business. But then I guess you're taking that same information and building around, here's this vision where M&A may fit to drive and help achieve those goals. That's a lot of information. Like, how do you manage?
Yeah.
Because I guess I feel like you're going to end up working with different team members on all this different feedback, and other people are going to get feedback from other customers. I'm just trying to say, how do you get it efficient? I want to learn more of the German way of doing these things, because this is I feel like such a scramble and a challenge of its own.
The German way is planning and documentation and collecting information and bringing them into database and doing analysis is sometimes a bit too slow. Yeah, so it's maybe also planning is replacing the misleading things by accident. Yeah? So this is not too much planning, but documentation and structured approach is an important part, and therefore you need tools. You need tools to collect the data. You need to do simulation of what can happen. What impacts do you have? What happens if this occurs, for example, a special impact, and things like this you need to go through. Yeah, but very well along a defined process and a standardized process where everybody in your community or in your workflow is completely aligned with.
So if I were to step back, can you tell me about the kind of team and resources that are necessary to successfully execute more of a programmatic M&A strategy?
So it's not good to have bankers only. It's not good to have lawyers only. They are all specialists in their areas. You need to have people understanding the market. And this comes back to my career steps and my development. And indeed, my core team is people coming from the market, people who had experience prior to that in R&D, in product management, in vertical market management, knowing the market and knowing the people in the market also, connecting to a network of advisors where hundreds are around the world, where you need to connect to. We call them the M&A managers, the M&A funnel managers, the inflow part. You need to have a strong finance backup. And there was talking about modeling and simulation, of course. You need to have a tool manager, a process manager. You need to have someone who's doing a continuous improvement on the tools itself. And what's mostly missing is a bit then after, let's say, a very good cultivation period, a good due diligence period, collecting data, documenting things. It comes to the final signing. You have very perfect legal support there. You sign and you close a deal, and then it stops. And so dedicated integration resources is the last piece I'd like to add to the answer to your question. And there we see, let's say, the biggest gaps maybe is not those in this standard business areas like the product management, R&D processes, not in the procurement things, operation things. It is the IT infrastructure that very often has to do big steps, and it's the HR cultural thing where you need to have dedicated people supporting you, and this is part of our, maybe right now, the most important part of our programmatic M&A approach to improve this segment as well.
That's a lot. That's a lot of people. Again, you mentioned the people. You're using a lot of folks to get a diversified view in the model, the impacts, the simulation you mentioned. How do you, like, let's say you're identifying an opportunity, right? To go through an approach of identifying an opportunity and evaluating it, how do you do that with this collaboration if you got this globalized team, everyone's spread out, and being able to like take these collective ideas and organize it in a way that you can act on it?
First of all, having the knowledge, knowing the market. So already, let's say, not going from greenfield, from scratch. So you have people who understand and know the market and can also immediately identify a bit the gaps. Then it's a lot of research. It's a lot of connection to what's going on in the market, what's happening, where is something in the move. And what we are practicing then is we have our funnel, we have the potential targets, and we have a very open funnel discussions with our internal customers, with those who have these gaps to fill in addition together with us. This is our most important part, weekly tracked, also with a lot of discipline. And then, let's say the rest is this workflow and bringing all together as information in a tool, tracking it there. And maybe there's first ideas to add even here a bit more than just discipline working and collecting data. Maybe there could AI tools already help a bit in this direction. This is what we see as something which we let's say starting to think of. Yeah.
That's a lot of moving parts. What does it look like when you ultimately organize this information? You mentioned tools. All right, we'll put the disclaimer here. Yeah. I know you're a deal room customer.
Yeah, that's right.
And obviously, I don't want to limit the conversation to that. And the goal isn't just to make a big commercial plug out of it. So feel open to speak about any tools that you're using. But what does it ultimately look like when you're getting all this data, all these input, all these ideas, global team?
Yeah.
Like, how does that ultimately converge into something that you're analyzing to go act on?
Yeah. So in addition to deal room as a tool for, let's say, the full end-to-end M&A process, where we might also, as I said before, a bit more improve towards integration and also supporting, let's say, the documentation within. You need to have also a bit tools where you get immediately access to information of companies being available, databases and information to this. But
what do you use for that? You got any good data sources for that?
Yeah, this is another service we booked. Yeah,
you can tell me.
It's we have used PitchBook.
Okay, we know PitchBook.
Yeah. And we did. Let's say we did trials also with the first AI tools in the market, but there we are not yet completely happy. So it's still based a lot on our own research, and there is, of course, improvements possible. But I see also progress there very, very quick in the last months.
I like it that you're continuously evaluating these other tools out there, especially emerging AI tools, and being opportunistic there. Okay, so you use data tools, and that helps you do some research. So you find a lead on a company, you can expand the research, get more information.
Yep.
Then what?
Then we hopefully acquire successfully. Yeah? So it's a very hot workload period during a due diligence. And there's this other challenge when you are an international company to do this over different time zones. Requires very good alignment on timings and things like this. But there, I said to you, there might be some areas where we could expect more support from a tool. So when we collected data, that a tool is walking through this, sorting it, prioritizing it, supporting our documentation, supporting us. We talked about already a white paper generator. Yeah, could be something which is in addition. Yeah.
Yep.
And then,
we're giving up our secrets. Some fun stuff we're working on. And
yeah, is it all right? But it's an idea. Would like to hear this when you working on ideas like.
Oh, that's why I love working with your team.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about the ways of working with Germans, but I was actually telling your colleague Oleg, I said that, if you can make a German customer happy, you can make anybody happy.
Yeah.
So
most critical ones, you think? Okay. It's possible. Yeah.
Yeah. As people say, oh, it could be tough to work with. I'm like, no, it's actually a good thing. I like to say, think philosophy, and don't take anybody this personal listening to this, but in America, we tend to get things done as fast as possible. And as long as it's like 70% quality there, you're fine.
Yeah.
But I think the German culture is like, get it up to 98% or better quality. So it's good. Like if you can make a German customer happy, you can make anybody happy.
Okay. Let's try to do it together. That's right. Yeah.
We're still working on it.
Yeah.
So, you have the data tools. There's other, you mentioned tools, and the reason I bring it up, because you did make that point of like continuous improvement on tools.
Yeah.
Which I do think is something I've noticed even working with your team, that there's always this proactive, here's feedback, here's constant, building out workflows, where a lot of teams don't do that.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of tying it together. I'm like, is this part of like this, what you define as a programmatic approach of like really keep continuously evolving your process, and you're doing it in the tool as a platform. You keep adding all the different workflows and steps in there. Is that sort of, am I missing it, or is it something else that goes beyond that?
No, maybe, yeah. Let's say nothing is as consistent as the change. And this is a bit the challenge. So you have tools, you have processes, you have everything following your documentation, but the organization is not standing. And with every acquisitions, by the way, you have new inflow. You have to choose for the best of both sides a bit, and not just roll it over, bulldoze it over, as many of the companies are doing this. And with that, you need to regularly adjust. And this is maybe a bit, at least it's a challenge. It's not a risk to fail, but it's a challenge. And the very first thing is you need to know exactly how to measure success. This is an important part. But people are changing, organizations are changing, responsibilities are changing, and this is in a regular way. And with that, I see this also, even in my programmatic M&A approach, as, let's say, the hardest part to follow and to track with. Yeah.
How could you give me an example of how you've seen this before? You had this initiative you kicked off. Can you give me an example of like, hey, here's how we typically did a deal before, the good and bad, and then after we've instituted and re-engineered to more of a programmatic approach, it's kind of a similar example and what the pros and cons are.
Yeah, let's say not yet completely, but in the pre-stage funnel management approach, is very clear that we have our last acquisition or last signing, which we did, we could manage to do within a 6 weeks due diligence period, where this would have been without tool and support and structured approach, never been possible before that. What I need to develop further now and to improve is the integration part of the business, and there we are still challenged to have this perfectly under control. So the sequence, the frequency of the inflow and of the deals we are doing right now is a significant improving part, and then hopefully in future the integration as well. Yeah, but maybe this is a bit where we are going to.
So you've seen an improvement in speed of doing diligence.
Yeah.
And right now the goal is improving integration. What's the plan? How are you going to do that?
The plan is dedicated resources, at least for core processes, and the core processes I identified earlier a bit. Biggest challenge is IT, where it can take years now in our organization to bring things together. You don't need to integrate everything immediately, but especially if it's coming to reporting structure, to numbers, and to workflows in ordering. I was talking about we would like to sell solutions. With that, one of the very first targets is a customer places one order to Belden, not 5 orders. One to the cable company, one to the connector company, one to the switches, one to the software parts, and so on. So dedicated resources for IT, and the HR processes and the transformational cultural change things are important to be supported as well by dedicated resources. This is what we are focusing now on with.
I'm curious about, because we kind of talk about basically connecting the process end to end. Is there anything, this is almost like leadership, enabling the collaboration, the alignment? Because I feel like that's one of the big challenges I always hear about is these distributed team, a lot of people involved. Mm-hmm. How do you keep these team members aligned on the highest priority tasks throughout the process?
Also here, talking to each other regularly. So we as a team, first of all, our core team, M&A core team, meets 3 times a week.
3 times a week, wow.
On regular basis. But it's more kind of a meeting for a coffee. We call it a virtual coffee break. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we have a bi-weekly regular 2 hours meeting where we align these activities. And with the extended teams in the due diligence, there is also weekly report outs and regular sessions. Talking to each other is the main topic. Yeah? Bring people together and bring them talking to each other. This is how we track.
Well, so, okay, the coffee break, is there an agenda? Is it just, hey, what are you up to over there?
It has it has no agenda. But every time it has an agenda. So there is no fixed agenda, but it's topics everybody's bringing in and what's highest demand. And it works quite structured. Yeah? It works really like you are standing in the kitchen and drinking a coffee or tea with your peer and exchanging information.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, and I'm trying to get a sense of how different or similar it is to the typical software stand-up meetings.
Yeah.
Right, where you go around quickly, and this is what I've done since the last time we got together. This is what I plan to do before the next time we get together, and these are the bottlenecks I'm running across. But it sounds like it's even less.
It's less than this, but this is already good. Okay, from Agile to bring something this in. This is a bit more how we approach our bi-weekly. The bi-weekly we have with a standard agenda with topics like this. Yeah.
I was expecting more engineering. I don't know why, but
yeah.
And then the bi-weekly sounds like that's more. I mean, is that pipeline review, and is that? Yeah. I guess you have more than pipeline. You have pipeline, in-flight, and integration.
Yeah, individual projects right now, different strategy. That's absolutely right.
All the same.
Yeah.
Your M&A group is one group. You don't. When you look at adding the integration resources, they're going to be within corporate development, not a completely separate team.
Yeah, but we will have it within this corporate development group. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. You want to keep everything connected.
Yeah. And we have today, Belden itself is also evolving here. I was mentioning before, 3 to 5, even 5 different platforms. And today we have just 2 businesses. And with that is a bit clearer the dedication of the individual people. Yeah. Yeah. So it's clearly identified.
Measuring success of a programmatic M&A strategy.
Yep.
What are the most important metrics?
Changed a bit, and there is right now. So Belden gave a commitment to the market. Belden is an industrial company, is a strategic investor. The commitment to the market was that we will achieve $8 earnings per share in next year, 2025. So highest priority to measure success and to identify our targets already and to bring them in is earnings per share target, which we are having as a leading indicator. And of course, is a second important one. If we are doing an investment, we would like to deliver a return on invest from day 1 on, and in year 3 it should be 13%. This is what we are targeting for, and this is the 2 main topics. Of course, I measure in addition my funnel inflow, my funnel target, given the acquisition targets. So this we do almost tracking like a sales funnel. This measurements according to lead times and close rates and things like this, additional topics. And the business itself, of course, measures against things we defined in white paper. There's a lot of synergies and development criterias, joint roadmap steps, which are measured there. So there is, let's say, a set. Finally, if an integration is there, is a set of 50 to 70 individual KPIs, which I do not have to track. The individual groups and functions are tracking.
You're such a public company. This is
yeah.
So let's take here's an opportunity to acquire a company, and you have to build a business case to present to the board. Your main goal is to tie it to that $8 EPS goal. Does that sound right? Like you want to kind of build hey, this is why we're buying the company. It's how it fits to the broader strategy, so we can get closer to our end-to-end solution goal. And given that this is what our target is, this is how we feel it's going to impact our share price or get us closer to the earnings per share goal.
Yeah, and it is, but this seems to be a purely financial-driven topic. But of course, this is clearly identifying also the fit to our strategy and to our gaps closing in the solutions portfolio. Yeah, and it is a bit more challenging if it's acquisition of just talent, for example, or just a technology. But even there, we have already, from the early beginning, a clear driven business case that supports our future solutions portfolio. Yeah, so it's absolutely makes completely sense.
The thing I think is strange is EPS would be so much factored more on market perception because that's what determines your share price. So then do you put that as consideration of based on the announcement and how the market perceives it is really the determinant, less than the financials than anything. It's more of what's the market perception going to be?
It's a relation there. That's right. Yeah.
Is that part of the pitch? Do you pitch it up to the board and say, hey, we know the market's going to love when we announce this because the story makes a lot of sense as opposed to the financial details?
I would say yes. Yeah. So it's always my driving factor, but there is no disconnect between this and how a customer sees the completion of our portfolio. If there would be a disconnect, then the one or the other would not happen. Yeah, so this needs to be call it like almost be married to each other.
Do you have to pitch to the board a lot when you do deals?
No, I don't have to pitch to the
board. Who's pitching the board? Is it the business unit?
I have to pitch to the CEO and CFO and get their convinced. And my direct reporter, I'm directly reporting into a SLT member, the Senior Vice President for Strategy and Technology, and he is pitching to the board.
So when you pitch the executive team, teach me, what's your formula? How do you get good at pitching to the executive team?
Yeah, this goes back that I'm a technical guy, I'm an engineer, so I'm always driven a bit like completion of the solution portfolio and fit to our customer needs. This is my main driver, of course, and with that, of course, I have the financial model according to before mentioned targets, which are giving, and I'm coming normally close to these targets. Yeah.
But the story is the engineer, you're sticking true to the problem solution, basically.
Mm-hmm. But this is what finally delivers you the inflow because there is a customer and only the customer gives you finally money as a company. Yeah?
Right. So this all goes back to how this is going to benefit the customer.
It's the roots, absolutely, yeah.
What was that? They used the term earlier. I don't have it here. I don't remember. You had a nice term around voice of the customer. That's the term. That's the term you used, voice of the customer. So it ties back to the voice of the customer.
Mm-hmm.
What's the hardest part of programmatic M&A?
I think we touched already on this. It's for me the discipline. The discipline and to work consistent and to follow things. So email is coming in, link it to the project, bring it in there, things like this, yeah? And have an information flow as good and as complete as possible, but also as secure as possible because I was before mentioning a lot of discussions inside the company and you have, of course, also to take care that it's, of course, non-disclosed information and it's critical. So maybe this is the mix of being as open as possible, discuss all our targets, but keeping it as also in a circle that is non-disclosed to the market. Yeah.
What am I missing? What can I learn from you? What have we not talked about that would be fun to talk about?
Yeah, I think we have talked about very complete a lot of things. And yeah.
I don't want to get like too technical. I do have some questions on AI. So
Yeah.
this year's Hot Topic's all about AI. And a couple of quick questions, just trying to get your perception since it came up earlier. Like, how excited are you about using AI? How do you envision it being applied to M&A?
Yeah, let's say I give it an 8+. Quite excited, and I was mentioning during this podcast interview a bit already. Let's say options which I dream of supporting me. We do not use this yet, but I was talking about a white paper generator or something where out of all of these due diligence materials, I can generate my white paper and have only to add the financial part. And so in documentation, also doing due diligence, having these groups giving their reports, I see their supporting capabilities for AI.
I mean, I think you're hitting it on. I think the strongest use case is taking unstructured data and structuring it.
It's perfect wording
which is like
for that.
so much of due diligence.
Yeah.
The team will appreciate it.
Yeah.
And anything else?
That's
probably the biggest one. That's a great starting place, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, I cannot close a deal. I cannot sign an SPA for me. This will remain, from my point of view, forever in very individual negotiations and legal topics. So I see their limitations. We do not, by the way, use AI a lot so far, but we have also identified a project to cover, to investigate how and what documentation we need in addition, what rules, things like this. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, I know our team's working with your team, so we'll have some fun, exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Do you ever log into Dealroom? I
have a login into Dealroom and I use it, and I have a good trainer. I'm looking to the left as he's sitting on the table here. But
they should have a dashboard for you that's just greens and reds, so you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we have a number of even VPs, heads of corp dev I've had on the podcast, and it's always the running joke of, I just want to see my report and know what's green,
good enough,
what's yellow, and what's red, and that's it.
So what I actually like is that it's quite intuitive, that I'm able to step in and find what I'm looking for, and the reporting structure. Even there, I was able, let's say, without any additional help, at 10 o'clock in the evening, well, it was on the other side of the ocean with my manager, was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, to prepare for him something where I needed to pull a report out of the room, and this is good. Yeah, it is. The easier you make these things, the better it is, and of course, a dashboard would be always good. But I would not be able to tell you right now what I would like to have in this dashboard. So this is really, from my point of view, already well managed.
I can tell you, your team has been fantastic to work with. Anytime we need feedback, they come prepared with their each own list of things that they would like to see. And it's been extremely helpful for us.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. I mentioned that tool manager and as an important role also in programmatic M&A. And this is, let's say, part of this topic. It's not a sole role. It's a role which you are taking care of, but this is an important part.
Well, now I know where it comes from. It's not them, it's you. It's you fostering the culture of continuous improving the tools. So now I see why every single person in your team has a list of feedback to provide. Yeah. So now I know where actually it comes from.
Yeah, thank you very much for this. I appreciate it. Yeah.
I should be thankful. At first you're like, this is a lot of work, but then it's like every great success. It's all due with hard work. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah.
I know you use Dealroom, but can you contrast what M&A was like before you used Dealroom versus after?
Yeah.
Which I think is already.
And this is it's covered and hard to say, and I put it all into structure, and it has to do also a bit with touch base on these changes. Nothing is consistent as the change. People are changing, and due to this, before Dealroom, handover was almost impossible, and follow-up by others was almost not manageable. Although we took care, let's say, soon also of let's say, good access to shared information. But this is the important part. Yeah, I think.
So improving handoffs and follow-ups.
Yeah.
Pretty important in M&A.
Yeah, absolutely. And then from time to time, you need, let's say, a year, 18 months, 24 months later, again, access to what you did at that time. And this was in the past. So there, when I started 4 years back, I found a lot in traditional files, in a cabinet where the files corrected and not electronical. And there, I think this is also very helpful. Yeah. Handwritten notes and things like this. And this is replaced.
What were the key things that made this transformation in your M&A process successful? If you were to summarize that, because it sounds like we hit on three big themes in this conversation. Like we really talked about having strategy defined in such a way that is so clear that any opportunity you look at, everybody knows where it fits into that strategy. We talked about tools and that keep improving that workflow so it keeps getting better and better. Mm-hmm. And then we talked about the initiative of really connecting the life cycle, that having your strategy run through your diligence process and connect it to your integration process and really get that continuous flow there, which lends to those handoffs and follow-ups. But when implementing this, because it's really formalizing a program, a lot of companies, they'll do M&A to the point that, hey, this is going to be core to our growth and that we want to formalize this. Like, what were the key things that made that successful for you to do it in your company?
Yeah, this is maybe not that easy to answer. So in addition to, let me make it and give you one different aspect a bit to all of this key performance indicators and financial results and positive things which we have as a story right now, but are also depending on the current global economical situation, how this is developing, macroeconomic things, and crazy years are behind and maybe ahead of us, where every quarter things are changing dramatically. My observation is a bit also the motivation of the team you're working with, and so this is maybe a completely different aspect, but the better the tool, the better information change is, the better communication and the more open it is, the more motivated are your team with you, and have fun while they're doing things which are hard work really to deliver. But this is an important aspect also. We were talking about customer satisfaction, voice of customer, and it is also the employee engagement and the employee focus in these activities. And there we had also, or we see a significant improvement. Yeah.
Voice of the team. Yeah. But tell me, what'd you do though? It's is it, hey, I'm going to send you guys some bottle of wine every so often and something like that? Or is there anything that, no?
It is no additional motivation. There is, of course, we have a rewarding program implemented where you can give points to people who are doing good things. But this is not the motivation. The motivation is how things are flowing, how input is turning into output, and with, let's say, how many fun you have in between in delivering this.
Sounds like it's almost like how you engage them or get them involved.
Soft factors, yeah, it's correct, yeah.
Okay.
And this is for me let's say the roots are really that, to my analysis, that more and more people are understanding their high-level strategy. Communication is an important part for that, and with that, the motivation is immediately increasing. And there we made inside Belden significant progress with the Great Place to Work measurement we do regularly. And it is not the measurement and the result only, it's the feeling. You feel it if you walk through our offices, through our factories, facilities, you feel the motivation.
I thought that was cool when you showed me the area where they have a program that they bring fresh recruits right out of undergrad, mm-hmm. and they're literally getting them directly experience with real world work and not just running around fetching coffee. Mm-hmm. So I think that sort of speaks of the company culture right then and there of just giving people opportunity to go create value and learn the skills.
And this in a 120 years old company, 122. Belden was founded in 1902. We have talked today about the 100 years of the brand Hirschmann we are celebrating this year. And it's not a pure startup, but you feel like from right now with our solutions approach, like you're being a startup and have this motivation. And in an established company, this is not so easy to, let's say, to leverage this. Yeah.
I got to ask you, what's the craziest thing you've seen in M&A?
Oh, this is a question which is not easy, but the craziest thing in M&A is if you buy something and have to sell it, and they are selling it a year later to half of the price they bought, and things like this. A bit like misinvestments and.
Instead of buy low, sell high, you buy high and sell low.
Yeah,
that's not good. Not a good way to do business.
And but other than that, there is maybe sometimes motivated things just to grow. I see right now a lot of activities. It's maybe not completely earning season this day, but I see a lot focus on just purely driven organic growth, and I think this is also not good. I would not say it's the craziest thing. The craziest thing is when you buy something with this motivation and sell it a year later. Yeah, this is a bit what I saw and observed. Yeah,
I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll take it. This has been a fun conversation. I learned a lot. You've helped me become a better M&A scientist.
It was my pleasure. I learned a lot from you, and I'm looking forward to a joint collaboration going on. And working with your tool. This is my pleasure. Absolutely.
Oh, no, that's been an awesome privilege opportunity, and to come meet you actually in Germany and get the factory tour. This is nothing more I can ask for. Wolfgang, thank you so much for your time. Those of you still with us, hang tight. I think we got my little bonus interview coming up here. Otherwise, till next time, here's to the deal. Ole Kottridge, Business Development Analyst at Belden. That's kind of more pretty junior role, right?
It is, yeah.
So if you want to kick things off, I want to talk to you a little bit more about the nuts and bolts of being hands-on with the process improvement initiatives, but maybe you can kick things off a little bit about your background and current role at Belden.
Yeah, absolutely. So I joined Belden around 3 years ago through our postgraduate program called Launch, where we focus on, let's say, hiring people straight out of university, right out of master's program, and giving them opportunity to develop themselves through a 3-year program where every year you rotate into a different role. I'm coming from finance, background in finance, and I did a bit of ops controlling in my first year, did commercial finance in my second year, and then in my third year, I joined our M&A team almost a year ago, I think to the date actually. And I've been here. I was brought to the team actually to integrate Deal Room into Belden. That's
awesome.
kind of my way into the team. And now I'm learning, supporting all processes from cultivation to due diligence to integration, whatever you can imagine.
Why did the company want to integrate Deal Room?
I think what Wolfgang also mentioned is that we would try to accelerate our programmatic M&A activities, and we needed to bring some structure into our processes to make sure that we have all documentation ready, to make sure we have one single source of truth, and thirdly, that collaboration can be done seamlessly and easily between different departments. The whole process was based on, putting stuff on paper, shooting emails, having files in different locations, different laptops from different people. Very unstandardized, inefficient, and time-consuming. I have more of a kind of optimization mind, if I call it like that. So if I see a process, I always think how to automate it to make sure that people are focusing on, let's say, more important things than just doing routine aspects of their jobs, to just providing relief for that. So when I see a process in our team which is not standardized or inefficient, I try to automate it or facilitate it. And how I do that? I do it through different tools. And Deal Room is one of the tools.
So driving efficiency, it sounds like, was the big why.
Yep, pretty much.
So when I think of like improving an M&A process, I always think of collaboration. Can you tell me about your approach when it comes to collaboration? And I'm thinking you have your internal team, leadership, your different functions, departments, and external teams. How do you manage all that?
Yeah. So currently we are managing it through either emails or team calls or face-to-face meetings. So there's a lot of just communication that's done on a day-to-day or weekly basis. If we're at the early stages of the M&A processes, we are involving, of course, the core M&A team. We're, of course, talking to our product managers, our R&D people, our technology people to make sure that we completely understand the strategic fit of the company that we're planning to acquire. They can fit into our solution selling strategy. Then if we move to due diligence, then, of course, there's all the departments involved. And their communication is key to ensuring that due diligence is done in a fast manner, accurately, and make sure to flag all the risks and to identify, and of course, synergies. And with integration, I think the communication continues to be the key to ensure the integration of the company is done accurately as well, and all the value is realized.
Role of technology M&A. How did tools like Dealroom and PitchBook enhance your M&A strategy at Belden?
Yeah, again, I think the biggest one is that those tools bring structure to our processes and clear overview of responsibilities and roles. So that's where Dealroom comes in. In terms of PitchBook, this is just an easy way to access information. It just saves time rather than going into the internet to look for things by yourself, Googling it, looking at different websites. It just consolidates information in one place and basically spits it out for us to use.
What about when you mentioned integrating M&A tools? Talk to me about your experience. What were the challenges when you're integrating M&A tools? How'd you overcome them?
I must say I'm really grateful that I had support of our leadership, because I know that in some companies the fear of change is quite big. I feel like in Belden that's not the case. So I had full support, first of all, from my management, from also the team around me, but also in other departments. Because I think when you show people the value of this new tool that it can bring and that it can ease their life, and you show that, well, of course, if you put some time in training, if you put some time in helping me to develop it within your team, it will save you time, of course, bring back some resources, save money. So I think the key here is to show people that this tool will not be a burden, but rather than it will help them to achieve their goals.
So it sounds like you're more responsible for the enablement of the tool, probably more hands-on day-to-day than most of the other folks.
Yeah, I mean, again, I was brought to the team to integrate it. And I'm working also with the Dealroom team to make sure that the product is running smoothly, providing feedback. It's been really fun.
Okay, so this is good. So that's why I want to end the conversation. A lot of the folks on the top of the chain, it's sort of there's the tactical components of an M&A process, and it sounds like you're definitely more in the weeds. But even where you're implementing, or when we talked about continuous improvement of the tool set, you're more hands-on to that. And the one key thing you mentioned was how you enable it was really showing the value add. Can you give me a specific example of something that you did and how people actually adopted it? I feel like this is the biggest thing that stunts a lot of companies and why 80% of this market is still using Excel for literally everything.
Yeah, that's using Excel nowadays to track everything is just criminal, I think, and brings
That's a good way. As we shouldn't pass a law that makes it criminal. Right. I like that idea.
Yeah. I think outside of M&A team, where the value of the tool is clear for them, I think the most important part of my effort was to make sure that people use this tool during due diligence, because that's what we use this tool for outside of M&A, outside of pipeline tracking, and to make sure that people use this tool and make sure that there is the least resistance possible. I make sure that they know that there is support available to them at all the times, which is coming from me, and that I keep training new people. I keep repeating the same things all over again with patience and without being annoyed at them. I think it's very important to show that you're there to support, and support is given without even sometimes being asked for. If I see people are struggling, I'm on a call, helping them, supporting them, making sure that there's no issues. So
it sounds like there's enablement internal teams, which you got more time. you can get the buy-in. But then when you got enablement with an external team, i.e. the counterparty, you got a tighter bandwidth. And it sounds like that's kind of an area where you definitely got to be wide awake
hands-on. Absolutely, yeah. And of course, there's a time investment from my side. But for the next due diligences, for the next projects, people start to use it more and more. And when people educate themselves, they start educating their team members, also providing support and relief to me. All right, so we just need to train the organization to use it. And after that's done, then it's done.
So let me ask you, like, how do you use Dealroom?
We use Dealroom from, the M&A team, we use it to track, of course, the pipeline, our inflow. We use it for, of course, due diligence. And we use it for integration tracking. Additionally, we use it for reporting processes through the dashboard capability, where we build different dashboards for different users, just kind of copy-pasting it into PowerPoint and presenting it to various stakeholders. So it's kind of from start to finish. That's kind of what we're aiming for.
That's what it sounds like. Pipeline, the due diligence process, integration, and then reporting out.
Exactly.
Which would be all those areas, pipeline, diligence, integration.
Precisely, yeah.
Are there any strategies you used specifically to support integration of newly acquired companies?
Yeah, I think the key, or at least what I've seen, I think the most important part of any kind of process, that would be due diligence integration process, it's ensuring that collaboration between different people is extremely easy. And to do that and to ensure that, you need to make sure that people understand all the processes and all the aspects of other people's kind of jobs and what the other people do. So people know who to come for any topic that they have. So for instance, if a person in HR has a question regarding a contract from a legal standpoint, they will know exactly who to contact in the legal department. That's one of the examples. So standardizing processes through the company and ensuring that people know, first of all, what's happening, who to reach out to, and what the process is, I think that's the key in any of the stages of either M&A or I think just in general.
So again, it ties back to enablement. You can architect a process for days, but it's more about enablement, having people buy in, understand how it's going to work, who the other people involved are, and give them maybe a little bit of autonomy for them to figure things out on their own.
Also documenting and ensuring that there's a place where people can just come and either have a training or just have a learning area.
Do you do that? Do you have to hold your own sessions in-house of like, hey, here's how we design the process, here's the tools we standardize on, this is how you're going to use them? Are you pretty involved with that?
Yeah, we do those trainings when we pull people into, for example, integration or due diligence, if we separate M&A from all the other Belden activities. And then if a person never done that before, or if there's a department, a group of people never done it before, then we do the trainings. Or personally, I do the trainings, for example, again, going back to Dealroom, but I do the Dealroom trainings for any employees that need support there. Yeah, when we have a new process, same thing.
So really, the kickoff meetings.
Exactly.
You'll introduce it.
That's a good way.
What are some of the unique challenges of conducting cross-border transactions have you experienced?
I think the time zone is definitely, I know it's an obvious one, but it's a challenging one, especially if we're based in Germany or in Netherlands. And then we are talking with someone somewhere in like California, like in a Pacific time zone. That's a really big time difference. And especially at the end of closer to the end of the deal, you need to have constant communication to ensure everything's aligned. There's like deadlines coming up. The time zone and the time difference just brings more hours outside of your normal working hours. That's one of the aspects. And of course, then the second one is culture. That could be from either even cross-border, even between two different European countries. Right? There's 27 countries in Europe, and every country has a different culture. And you need to consider that.
That's what I'm learning. There's a lot of layers of culture. Because even in America, you talk about culture, and it's like culture between different companies, but then you talk culture between different countries. It's like layers of culture.
And even culture between different regions in one country.
Yes. Yes. What motivates you to continue growing in the field of M&A? How do you approach learning from diverse teams?
I absolutely loved my last year at M&A. I think I've learned the most about all of the things regarding to different departments within Belden and just in general. So here at M&A, I learned stuff about law that I never learned before. I know stuff about now operations, our supply chain, commercial side of things. Of course, coming from finance and accounting, that aspect was known to me, but now I can see how those processes and aspects are taken into account from a global perspective. And I am extremely excited to learn more. And there's so much more to learn for me.
What's the goal? Where are you going to end up?
I'm kind of still considering that, to be honest. I think I don't have a certain position in mind. I would just love to develop more, lead people, and kind of develop more further. I know it's a very vague answer, but I'm still early in my career, and I'm
It's all up and comers. I'm just trying to read you out.
Absolutely, yeah.
Hey, Oleg, what's the craziest thing you've seen in M&A?
In my limited experience, so far,
super limited experience, yeah.
I think, maybe not the craziest thing out of M&A, but the expectation that I had coming in of how complicated a deal could be, how many moving parts there are in one transaction. Because you read those, news articles, Apple bought this, Microsoft bought that. And it's like, okay, well, thanks for announcing it. Your stock goes up or down depending on what people think. But then you go behind the scenes and it's just so many people, so many moving parts, so many things to consider in such short amount of time. I think that's left impression on me.
M&A touches everything.
Exactly.
Any other topics, any other takeaways or things you'd want to share with other practitioners?
I think, again, if you are struggling with running, again, due diligence, integration, or any other kind of processes, just make sure that it's standardized, make sure it's documented somewhere, and make sure that it's as streamlined as possible, and people are educated. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways that I learned, and that I would like to pass on to others.
Yeah, I guess that's like the crux of making M&A into a program, which has been the theme of this podcast. It sounds like documentation and process is a big part of it, but then enablement was one thing we actually talked about. Was like, how do you get people to actually adopt, educate them about it, and then I guess be dynamic in a way if they are experienced, if they're new to it, so you can put that emphasis on training them the new things they need to know.
Yeah.
Oleg, so you heard me interview the big boss, right? Wolfgang, and we went through it. What do you think I missed? What do you think I should have hit on that I didn't hit on with him?
You mentioned, or you asked, how does leadership kind of motivate the team to go forward, right? To move and execute these deals in a fast environment, in a fast-paced rhythm. I think, at least for me, and I think that's what I noticed, is that the appreciation of your work, at least for me, is the biggest and intrinsic motivation. I think the appreciating people's extra hours or extra commitment, I think that's the keys, at least that I take away with for my future leadership positions.
Feeling appreciated.
Exactly, yeah.
I like that. Was there anything else in that conversation that, you may have answered different or anything else?
Just wanted to say that regarding AI, artificial intelligence, right? So during Wolfgang Schenk's interview, said that he was at 8 when he marked how excited he was. Personally, I think I'm at 10. Because I think artificial intelligence would be, or the adoption of artificial intelligence would be the key to progress further and to stand out from the companies, organizations that did not did not use AI capabilities for their processes. That could be either internal or external. So looking at so rapid development in this field and thinking how to use this amazing technology within M&A. Extremely excited for the next, maybe even 2 months. Nowadays you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, GPT-4o just dropped, and it's groundbreaking.
I agree. I'm optimistic. I know you're testing some of our new beta functionality. So I'm excited to see that progress as we continue working with your team.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see what Diron can develop with that regard.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the templates, or as Wolfgang referenced, as building out the white papers. What are there other views or ideas that you have of how AI could impact M&A?
At least at the current state of AI or Gen AI development. First of all, of course, drafting different documents or drafting due diligence reports, I think that would be extremely useful and extremely time-saving for the team. I also mentioned a bit about redundancy of due diligence requests. Sometimes the sell side could be a bit overwhelmed with the requests from the team. And if the teams of different work streams don't really see each other's requests, sometimes because of close permissions or just because of such a big workload that the team cannot really check what other teams submitted, which I think is pretty fair. I think the AI would help a lot here as well to make sure that the request either has been maybe already answered or has already been submitted.
Oh, so you got some real process assistance.
Yeah, I think that would be extremely helpful.
I like where you're thinking.
Structuring integration process based on previous integrations. Yeah, but to be honest, again, this is the current capability. I don't know what's going to be in 1 year, which would be could be completely something out of the box that we can't think of now.
It's moving fast. I agree with that. So it's going to be exciting as well to see how things evolve. Oleg, thanks for taking the time to have this conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks.
I thought we wrapped things up, but I got to hijack you for a little bit more time. And there you are, folks. You got both sides of the deal team. I don't know both sides of the deal team, but you got top to bottom. You're head of corporate development to the new up-and-comer on the team. This has been a fun conversation. Again, thank you, Oleg. You've contributed just as well as Wolfgang, helping me become a better M&A scientist. And those of you still listening, I love feedback. I'm curious what do you think of this is, if these conversations are helpful or not. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Love to hear your thoughts on it. It's always nice to hear if these conversations add value to any of the corporate M&A peers out there. Otherwise, till next time, here's to the deal.